Hello, everybody. Welcome to Starfinder Workshop. We're going to make some cool science fantasy stuff today. And that
Hell
includes
yeah.
you, chat, so I'll be watching out for your contributions. But let's meet our other panelists, and then I'll introduce myself last. So, Jenny, why don't we start with you?
Hey, so some of you may have seen me around. I am Jenny Jarzabski. I'm a developer working on Starfinder here at Paizo. Primarily, I work on adventures, though we do have quite a bit of interplay between our hardbacks and whatnot. We work as a team. I've also done some freelance writing for both Pathfinder and Starfinder in the past.
Awesome. And Simone?
Hi, I'm Simone. I'm the newest senior editor, so I work on all of the things. I have written a little bit for Starfinder and Pathfinder. So yeah, excited to be here.
Glad to have you. And I'm Joe Pasini, Starfinder's lead designer. I work on a lot of hardcover books and various other projects with the team. And we have a lot of fun making a lot of things up. And we've done panels like this before with building out new worlds and new species. And I wanted to mention that some of those species we've created in panels just like these have ended up in our Starfinder product. So the cephaloom is a playable species that swims around in liquid methane seas, at least on their home planet. And they are in Alien Archive 3, if you want to check them out. But they're also going to be further detailed in Interstellar Species, which is coming up soon. And there's also the Vasperin, which is a sort of quick molting aerial ambush predator that ended up pretty adorable, honestly. And that's in Alien Archive 4. So no guarantees that what we make together today will be in a future Starfinder product, because who knows what chaos we might unleash here. But it's always a possibility, and that's always exciting. And I also want to say, Starfinder has currently 100 plus playable species, dozens of science fantasy worlds, but galaxies are known for being pretty big. So there's always room for more. And I think a lot of the fun of Starfinder is creating new stuff to be and to visit. And so we'll do that today. We're going to make a world first using the Deck of Many Worlds and the Galaxy Exploration Manual. Of course, there's a million ways to do this kind of thing, but we're just going to use that as a template. And then we'll make at least one alien species that lives on that world together. So why don't we get started? Let's start with the world. Uh, do Jenny or Simone, do you have any tips for world making in general that you like to think about when you're creating a world, just in general, like outside of this process, that you want to share?
I know for me, I'm the kind of brainstormer who likes to get way too into the details first. So I would probably start by thinking of like the coolest mushroom species on this planet, and then zoom out and figure out, okay, what else is actually going on here? So I don't know if that's the best approach, but that's usually what I get roped into.
It's actually a really great point because you can start kind of anywhere. And we mentioned this in the sort of alien building section of the Interstellar Species book, where we say it's kind of a nonlinear process, right? You can start from some micro level and sort of build out from that. And if I'm GMing, then I like to go with what the players are interested in. Maybe one of my players is from a world that they haven't really fleshed out, so we'd start by fleshing out that world. Or maybe one of them is a research scientist who specializes in fungal growth, and for some reason, that's the seed that starts the whole thing. So we are kind of going top down today, but there's a million ways to do it, and that's a great point. All right,
Absolutely. I don't I
yeah.
was just going to say I don't think there's a wrong way either because I'm typically the opposite. Like usually I'll start with a high concept. Like sometimes it's a really weird thing. Like I want the ocean planet that's ruled entirely by people, like people who sing and use bubble magic. I don't know. And then from there I would go forth and create that. I would detail that out a little bit more, but that's not the right approach either. It's just everybody's different and how they approach it. So
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm already interested in that. Like, let's forget this panel. Let's just explore that.
let's just dig
I
into
was
that.
gonna. I mean, yeah, yeah. So I was gonna start here with the Deck of Many Worlds, which is a
Ooh.
110 card product, and it comes with a bunch. Well, I just said how many cards it comes with, but there's a bunch of world cards that on the back have some more information, like species and little a little chart that helps you when you line them up in such a way, you get a lot of information about that world, like who lives there, whether some cultural attributes, physical attributes, that kind of thing. So today we're just going to use the front of a Deck of Many Worlds card to get the physical attributes. So I picked a few here, a couple, a sort of standard one and a couple weird ones. So I'm actually just going to ask Simone one, two, or three, and you'll be picking our starting world at random here. Three? Okay, this is an irregular world. It's pretty dark, so hard to see. But it's a strange megastructures hold together huge fragments of a former terrestrial world. So this was like a blown up planet that is held together by a framework. It has every kind of biome on it. Gravity's low on it, and the atmosphere is normal. And so biomes include airborne, aquatic, Arctic, desert, forest, marsh, mountains, plains, and of course space. There's space between, as Dave Matthews would remind us. So let's start with that. Those are our physical attributes. So we have a general sense of what kind of world, and it's a weird one. They're not all weird. There's a lot of Earth-like planets in this deck, so it doesn't always get so strange. But I wanted to start a little spicier today. So why don't you both pick a biome for us to explore, and that'll help us. We'll shift over to the Galaxy Exploration Manual now, and explore two of those biomes and get an adventure hook from each of them. So Jenny, do you want to pick a biome for us first? You don't have to have memorized it. Forest, okay, great.
Forest.
I can repeat them
the other
if you
choices, though. Yeah, please repeat the other choices.
Yeah, we got airborne. It's basically everything you might find on Earth, right? So airborne, the sky, the aquatic, Arctic, desert, marsh, mountain, plains, and space.
Okay. I think forest for mine. I will stick with forest.
And then Simone, would you like to pick one? You might be biased in this case.
I am biased. I actually was thinking about picking forest because I love forests. We live in the Northwest. But I wrote Arctic biome, so let's go with that.
Ooh.
Okay, we have to go with that then. All right, cool. So let me go to Galaxy Exploration Manual and find the page numbers for that. So in Galaxy Exploration Manual, each biome that I mentioned and a few others have a whole article that includes all sorts of stuff to help you. Let me just write these down. So Arctic's on page 6, forest is on 64. Let's start with Arctic since I went there first. So each article gives you sort of a background on what an Arctic biome might be like, a sidebar about cool things. So Simone, in this case, wrote about Arctic celebrations that I won't spoil, but it's a cool note on Arctic celebrations. Notes about adventurers who might be from that biome in case you are from this world and you want to have grown up there. And then some rules and reference for GMs, like, you might, for Arctic, for example, you might want ice rules or falling into water rules, the aquatic terrain section of the core rulebook, like it gives you reference to that. It also has Arctic inhabitants, a whole table that you can roll on randomly or just pick, various stuff that makes sense to you to be in an Arctic environment. But we're going to skip that today because we're going to make our own species later. So we're just going to use the adventure hooks here. So I'm going to roll a d20 and get a random adventure hook. And it is a newly active subglacial volcano has turned a previously frozen and impassable stretch of Arctic wastes into a giant lake, connecting two communities that had been entirely cut off from each other. What opportunities and challenges arrive from this new context? All right, so there was this frozen and impassable stretch of Arctic waste that's now a lake. So we have two communities that can contact each other. Now, we don't really know anything about anyone who lives here yet. Does that inspire any ideas for people yet? We can also come back to it. I'm just going to note it down. Giant lake connects communities, and we can kind of come back to it. And maybe our alien species, maybe we'll come up with the two that live on either side and are connecting, or maybe somebody shows up in the lake. I don't know. Maybe it unlocks something underneath. I'll shut up for a second. Sorry. Jenny or Simone, I'm so sorry for rambling, everyone. I'm also going to read chat too. So, but yeah, Jenny or Simone, do you have any thoughts about that? Okay, if not, we'll keep going.
No, I was looking at chat and they're kind of stuck on mushrooms and magical girls right now. So I mean, we can definitely bring in some mushrooms to this, but I don't think we're quite there yet.
I'm writing it down. We definitely, absolutely. And that's the thing. Like, this is just a process to kind of help inspire ideas. But if you already have some, or if it inspires ideas that are unrelated, that totally works too. It's all about just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. So let's go to the forest biome next. And that was on page 64. And let me roll another d20 for another adventure hook. And again, that section has all kinds of things. Got a nat 20 here, critical success. What did we get? A region once thought to be a diverse forest ecosystem was recently discovered to be the offshoot of a single massive underground organism that spans hundreds of square miles. And something is agitating the creature. That's absolutely mushrooms, is it not? Like,
yes.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. So massive underground mushroom colony, maybe redundant, has been disturbed. Is that what I said? I kind of was just reading, I'll be honest with you all. So it was thought to be a forest, but it's a forest ecosystem, but it's just an offshoot of a giant underground mushroom colony. Okay. And something's agitating it. Okay, that's the other thing. All right, something's going wrong, which is what you need for an adventure hook. All right.
Possibly cool. The same event that unfroze this lake. Maybe we could tie those things in somehow.
Yeah.
Not sure how yet.
Yeah, the prompt said it was a volcano, but it could be literally anything. And a volcano is kind of disturbing if you really think about it. Let's go to. So that's kind of we've covered our sort of physical. Our physical attributes here. But now let's look at our cultural attributes. And again, you could pick other biomes and explore those, or even roll some more on the forest table if you wanted more forest related stuff in your world. But what we present in both the Deck of Many Worlds and the Galaxy Exploration Manual for cultural attributes are accord, which is sort of how well everybody gets along with each other. So like a medium accord world would be kind of Earth-like in that, we have nations and there are, unfortunately wars and conflicts, but there are also, international organization and pacts and treaties and things. So there's a mixture of getting along and not getting along. Whereas a high accord world, everybody gets along, which doesn't mean it's a utopia. It could be that, there's a tyrant making everyone do what they say. So technically that's high accord, but And then the low accord, of course, is nobody. Everybody's fighting all the time, or something's going wrong. It can also speak to the relationship with the external galaxy, right? So how insular is that world, or is it part of an organization or whatever? Alignment, you might be familiar with the alignment system in role-playing games. That's something we can determine as well. Magic, low, high, or medium magic, religion, and technology. Those are two that also can just be kind of different stages of their presence there on that world. So let's dive into those. I'm going to roll a d6 for accord and see what we get. So we got high accord. So yeah, so we got high accord here. I'm going to go to that section of the Galaxy Exploration Manual and roll another d20, and then I'll stop talking after I read what the result is, which is authorities investigate the import of an off-world foodstuff or medicine that seems to cause discontent in users. Okay.
Uh-oh. Okay.
So there's an off-world medicine that's causing discontent.
That would be a big issue for a high accord planet, because if they're used to getting along and being kind of peaceable, then that would be a pretty big problem if suddenly the food is making you all fight each other.
Truth. Off-world food that's causing discontent. All right. Yeah, let's go with food stuff. So some kind of imported food. Maybe it's like a new rage, a new trend, some kind of space TikTok trend to eat this food. No, is that?
Oh, no.
All right. I'm just guiding. You're the idea people.
Hybrid genetically engineered purple apples or something. I don't know, but apparently something is wrong with them.
Wonder if they're related to this sort of made out of mushrooms. I know, why would they be importing them though? That's the question, but it totally could be. All right. Then alignment.
Maybe they were eating the mushrooms. Wait, maybe they were eating the mushrooms and they didn't realize that there's some sort of sapient, a mushroom, oversoul or something. It's oh no, we can't eat these anymore. The sapient creatures need them to live, or they are sapient. Oh God, that's a little horrifying. But that at some point in their history, perhaps the inhabitants of this planet realized they shouldn't eat the mushrooms and they decided to start bringing in other foods. from
We
off-world.
could. I mean, we could flip it and say that for some reason the inhabitants have started eating the mushrooms. Maybe this lake that melted allowed people access to this not entirely underground mushroom colony. And they're like, oh, look at this great food source. And it's like, no, 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 you're not supposed to eat those. And that's what's disturbing mushroom cause. So we can kind of like turn the off-world part on its head and say it's maybe this new group of people that's got access. So alignment, we just do a couple rolls and we see that it is, and I've dropped my D6, so now I'm going to cheat and use a D20. And it's, we've got neutral, good. It's a neutral good world, which, we don't do monoliths here. It's not everyone on this world and everything that ever happened here is neutral good. It's just a sort of guiding principle for approaching, when you come into that world's space, are you greeted with alarms, fighter ships, or a welcome basket? And this might be more toward the latter, or there might be some groups or organizations that greet you. There's a big section in Galaxy Exploration Manual that talks about the different alignments and kind of related gods and other entities and creatures that might be related to that alignment. But unless that's, neutral goods kind of milquetoast. So if that strikes anything for any of you all, please speak up now. I'm going to roll for magic while you do that, if you do.
I like the chat suggestion from Wingbreaker that the imported food is an ancient enemy of the mushroom forest.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
even if it's not like a sentient enemy, like something about this other organic organism does not break down well in the soil and is making the mushroom roots sick or something like that. Some mycological distress.
Yeah.
This sounds like a space.
That could be the name of
This sounds like the perfect. Oh, sorry, Joe. Go on.
No, please.
I was going to say, this sounds like a great adventure for like Xenowardens and just other space druids of any, or this could be a great place for adventure for those sorts of characters and organizations, since this seems to be very ecologically based. And I don't think that's a problem at all. So.
Yeah. Do you think Eric would let us name the adventure Mycological Distress? Because I kind of like that.
I don't know. He might have problems with that one. I like it,
You can tell I don't name adventures, yeah. So I got, I think I got a 10 on the D20 instead of, I should be rolling a D6, but I dropped it. So let's call that medium magic or low, and let's go roll on that table and see what else is going on. Now this could be overkill, right? I just kind of like rolling on tables. That's why there's a million of them in this book. You can obviously stop like whenever you want and roll with what you've got. So xenobiologists believe the world they're surveying is a bundle of eggs of a massive magical beast and seek to preserve this new life. Oh, what if that's what the off-world food is? It turns out that it's eggs of something that maybe eats the mushrooms, or like when you eat it and pass through whatever, look at the thing, that leaves behind a seed or an egg that is hatching into something that's disturbing the forest. Maybe we could do something like that. I don't know. That's weird. Very weird. Weird stuff in this book. Again, feel free to hop in anytime. Thanks, chat, for your ideas too.
Yeah, I had a weird idea about maybe eating the mushrooms. Like maybe the mushrooms or their spores had. You said because you were rolling for the magic level of this world, and that got me thinking that maybe the mushrooms are inherently magical, and if you eat them, like over your lifetime, like back when they didn't know it was not okay to eat the mushrooms, you would accumulate a magic level. And I mean, that's not how it works in Starfinder, but we could say that's how it works in this world. It allows you to do some sort of magic, and then they stopped eating the mushrooms, and now they can't access that sort of magic. So there could also be people of less than normal scruples who are looking for more dangerous ways to get power. That could be more fun adventure hooks on this world, making pacts with demons and whatnot.
That's awesome.
They can't have their mushrooms.
Just want to say yes to all these ideas. Like we can do them all. Because the other thing is when you're making a world, worlds are big, right? Like just because the galaxy is enormous and can hold basically infinite worlds, doesn't mean that a world itself isn't ginormous and can hold like way more than you'll ever get to in a single adventure. But kind of
you said at the beginning that this planet was fractured, right? Like something was holding different pieces of the planet together. Is that where we started?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh,
That could be
totally forgot about that.
the roots. That could be the root
Oh my
structure
gosh.
of the mushroom organism.
That's awesome. It is now. It could be and it is. You've done it. That's great. I love when that stuff works out. All right, so religion, let's roll and see how dominant religion. So we got a low result for religion. So it might be that there's just not a lot of religious influence here. It could be that it's like weirdly absent, or it's outlawed or something, or specific, specific deities are verboten here. Some kind of, for some reason, it doesn't feature that much in daily life.
It would make sense if it was because it's so focused on xenowardens and the ecology, if it was more just focused on the nature and the environment rather than worshipping a specific deity.
That does make sense. I like it. Also see the Dragons and Things Network saying the core is a sentient plant elemental struggling to hold the planet together as gravity tries to force it apart. That's cool.
I like it.
Just like self-preservation. Yeah, that's really neat.
This task that they've been entrusted to, this eternal struggle, and no one else knows. Oh, I love stuff like that. I mean, I don't like anything like that. I don't know what you're talking about.
And now someone's messing with it, right? Someone has through importing this weird. Okay, so this is sorry, I'm rolling on the low religion adventure hooks table. And I got religious pilgrims make regular stops on an atheistic world, and the xenophobic residents want it to stop. Okay. That's not seeing how that plays into this necessarily, other than maybe people regularly visiting here. Maybe it was somebody visiting. Like, is there maybe Oros or somebody, some adherents of Oros or some other sort of interested in biology god have heard of this world and have come here to like check it out and worship, and they're kind of like, it's not really about that here. Could you kindly peace out? I don't know.
Maybe the fracturing of the planet is being driven by like off-worlders coming to investigate or harvest the mushroom or something like that, and that's why they're not really keen on visitors, because their planet is falling apart.
That makes sense. And if you're harvesting from these mushrooms, then that's going to weaken their grasp on the various pieces of the planet, right? That would make sense to some degree. Let's do technology, which is the final straw. I don't know what I'd expect tech to be. And this is another thing, right? Like, we're rolling all this randomly, but you can always just pick what makes sense to you and what you want. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing this for an adventure and you have a mechanic in the party, you might say, this is high tech so that my mechanic has a lot to interact with on this world or something, or low tech so that they can be like the cool technology bringing individual. I rolled low technology here, and a result of 4 gives us a world's inhabitants shy away from any form of technology, a repercussion of a previous calamity caused by such machines. So now maybe we learn why this world broke apart in the first place. It was some kind of technology. Maybe it was fungus related, and it caused an explosion of growth that tore the planet apart, and then it's now keeping it together. I don't know.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I actually really like that. Like that it originally was destructive and now it is like what is keeping it together somehow.
That's cool.
Yeah,
right.
I like that. Oh gosh, yeah. Oh, and we still have this frozen lake somewhere too. We've not, we still have that going on. Chat just reminded me with technology causing an ice age. Like, well, maybe that was part of it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's it's always, we can always just sort of let things lie if it's like that doesn't quite fit in our new knowledge of this world, but it totally can make sense. Do we want to name this world yet?
Oh gosh, naming is the hardest part.
It really is.
If chat has anything,
I know.
Name
this world for us.
Yeah, chat, just think about it, see what you can do.
Just anything but mushaboom. It's not mushaboom. As long as we stuck.
No. Although you've said that now, so I see La Florna, Ubec. Okay, those are better than what I'd come up with, probably. There may be
Lorna,
more before
that's
long.
coming from inside the house. Let's go with
Coming
you,
from
Becky.
inside
I like
the
the
house.
windbreaker. Yeah.
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.
I like it. Just rearrange. Just take like a planet you already know about and just rearrange the letters. They'll be fine. Need to do.
Hotville.
The editorial
Hotville.
department frowns on that practice.
Yeah, I know.
It's true.
We really do. Like, don't actually do that in your game. Don't actually do that if you're writing for us, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, in your home game, no one's gonna come get it.
Exactly. We for publishing, we do the say it aloud test and the giggle test and the Google test. All important. Well, so we've gone through kind of the basics. We kind of breezed through it. And again, each one of those sections has more stuff that you can use for your game and your players. Like the Accord section comes with a whole leadership system that you can run if you want or not. I'm not sure what would make sense in this case. But it sounds like we've kind of set up at least a species that would be on this planet that has undergone this, that has been around long enough to see the world kind of blow up, get held together, and then these sort of interlopers showing up and possibly causing problems. So that sounds like at least 2 alien species that we could make with the interstellar species rules. And these are specifically, so Alien Archive, the first volume of the Alien Archive has rules for making any creature, like a non-player character. But what's cool about the interstellar species article is it lets you make mechanically balanced characters that you can play as. So if you want to be from this world, or basically, if you want to play one of the species that exists on this world, you can create it using this system. Let's jump into that, unless we had any other thoughts about this planet. Of course, as we talk about the species that live there, we'll talk more about how they interact and what might be true about the planet. But while I switch to that PDF, if anyone has thoughts, please holler. All right. So like I was saying, this article in particular lets you know that whenever you're making something new like this, a nonlinear approach is often the way to go, just kind of starting with whatever sparks your interest. The sort of big points of the big sections of this article are the mechanics of our species, because we're going to play them in game potentially. And so we want to give them something cool that only they can do, some cool combination of things that they can do, special abilities and the like. There's also a section on culture, like how you might approach thinking about their culture. Which again won't be a monolith, but it'll be something that an individual exists in a social context, and you can decide, what's the general culture like? What is, if you're playing a character of that species that grew up in that culture, what do they identify with? What do they accept and reject? That kind of thing. And then homeworlds, of course, which we've covered already, and then final details. So we could start with. I'm interested, do you want to start with sort of the physiology of this? And for all of these things we can pick, of course, we can roll randomly. So there's stuff in here to randomly roll the physiology of the creature. We can totally do that if you're up for it. There's also, with the sort of mechanics, there's, again, tables which you can pick from, or things that make sense to you, or you can just kind of go with it. You can just roll and see what happens. So I'm always going to be on team roll and see what happens. But if we have any things from our world building that kind of makes sense for this first species, which let's say it's our sort of original species that's been here and seen things go down over the past few centuries or millennia. Thoughts, Jenny? Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, you're definitely.
I talked a lot.
I think you are good. You're doing great too. I think that I think for the species that's been around for a long time, I don't want them to necessarily be humanoid, because I feel like that's too easy. Like we can be a little more interesting for this panel at least. I like the idea though of them being adaptable to different climates, because I mean we do know there's more than one species that lives on this world, but if we're talking about like a sapient, like there might only be a couple or one like major sapient species that's like, native to the planet. Or there could be dozens. Like that's up to us or you when you're doing your own game and creating your own worlds.
Right.
But I like the idea of them being just highly adaptable, and that there are populations of them living throughout these biomes. So we have them like in the forest, like we have the original ones who were probably mushroom foragers and ate the mushrooms before they had whatever contact with the sapience behind the fungus and realized, or just, hey, the fungus is saving the world now. Let's not eat it, maybe. And maybe they also live in the frozen Arctic area too. That's my thought. So maybe some like species, like different fur or body covering, feathers, fur, color, like whatever coloration, maybe it changes like in different climates, like, rabbits that are brown in the summer and white, and if they're like Arctic hares, I don't know, maybe they're like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's my thought.
I love it.
Love it. Yeah, so body shape and exterior is kind of one of the tables you can roll on or pick from, and there's definitely feathers on there. Fur should be on there, but it's not. There's, whether they're sort of tall or wide or round or asymmetrical of some variety. Just the general like profile of them. There's also, we can roll for different limbs, whether they have like your arms and legs, which would be more humanoid, and maybe, or they could be animalistic too. Wings or fins or tentacles, or have insectile limbs, or unusual is the final option in that, which is the stranger stuff. So I'm looking at the mechanics. On the mechanics side, we have basically, you'll pick combat options and non-combat options, so that you have something cool you can do both in combat but also outside of combat, because there's a lot of social encounters, and you're not always fighting in Starfinder. So you want to have things you can do that are unique. So within each of those combat and non-combat, you can either pick or roll a sort of stronger option or two regular options. And I'm seeing in the non-combat options, there is a photosynthesis ability that's a regular option. So we could pick that and something else, which is that the species can undergo photosynthesis to gain nutrition instead of eating. And they can go without light for 3 days, after which they have to attempt constitution checks to avoid starvation. Now, I don't know, maybe we want to make that more mycological in flavor at the very least. So we can think about that. There's also, we could roll to see what else, what other non-combat thing we get, and see if that works backward. There's stuff like easily augmented, which wouldn't make sense probably for our species, right? Because they're so anti-technology, so they're not necessarily going to be like, hook me up with my cybernetic eyeballs. And then in terms of combat options, just kind of looking through, there's a big table of them. There's flexible, which is literally being able to kind of squeeze through things more easily. There's natural weapons. There's defensive aspect. I don't know if any of that really is capturing what we were talking about being sort of adaptable, right?
Not quite. Although, go on.
Camouflage or something, like we talked about adaptability to different biomes and stuff. So if they can, and it's also, I think, low gravity, we said at the beginning.
It is.
I am not a physics expert, so I don't really know how that's going to show up in their build, but something to consider as well with how they blend in or transfer from like piece to piece of this planet.
I mean, if the expanse is to be believed, they would probably be tall and slim. They would probably be like, I don't know, their bones would be elongated, at least compared to if they lived in a higher gravity environment. I see chat wanting to make them slime-like and let them squeeze now. So we've got like adaptable, like slime space rabbits with like. Hey, it's Starfinder. We can have this.
Adaptable space rabbits. Yeah.
I love it.
Slime rabbits, basically.
Slime rabbits. Yes.
Tall slime rabbits.
I mean,
that's how these things start.
Yeah, slime makes sense because like if they have to travel across the ice or something like that, if they're more like they have more like real estate to grab onto ice or rocks or something like that.
Slime rabbit is a choice. Gummy rabbits. Yeah.
I'm gonna veto gummy rabbits just because the last time we did this, we had a candy planet. Like we.
Oh, this is true. Yeah.
We're just going back to the candy. I love it.
The desertification world. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my god.
There is a camouflage non-combat option. So let's give our slime rabbits camouflage, which lets them stealth better in specific biomes that you pick when you do this. And then maybe photosynthesis or something else for that. And then for our combat, I feel like there was a nice we could give them elemental affinity, which would let them, when they attack, change half the damage to a certain damage type. I don't know if that quite makes sense. It could be acid, like when they attack.
I kind of like that. And yeah, I like that. And that could also be like, that could key into that adaptability thing. Like maybe there's variants that do a different type of damage based on like where they're from. I don't know. You could do that.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's cool. Yeah, that's neat. Maybe because this world got fractured and is connected, maybe biomes are actually separate on separate chunks of land that are separated by space. And so they've gradually evolved to do what you're saying, which is, so if you're on the lava chunk of this planet, then you maybe you even breathe fire. That's an option too, a breath weapon. But maybe you're resistant to fire and you can do fire damage. I don't know if it makes sense to do fire damage necessarily, but something like that. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Let's see. So culture, there's advice about using sort of what we've already talked about, the culture attributes of the world, right? Alignment, magic, all that stuff. So we could adopt those for this species if we wanted to, especially because we're kind of saying this is their home world. There's also the possibility of looking at other sort of spectra, like tradition versus progress, or the community versus the individual. Like, where does this culture value, or like, does this culture promote, the needs of the many or over the needs of the few, or kind of is it more about individualism? Again, these are yeah.
I feel like on a world that is largely surrounded by or dealing with mushrooms, that interconnectedness makes more sense than individualism, unless that was the mistake they made and they've learned since. But I mean, if they've discovered that this is one organism that's holding the planet together, I feel like the lesson of interconnectedness is kind of like right in your face.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes, I definitely noticed that before you said it and didn't need you to point it. No, I absolutely did. That's a really great point. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's also really cool that, you're talking about it on like a fourth dimension of time, right? Like it's we're looking at it like if we were PCs that visited this world or were asked to come there or something, we would be seeing it as it is now, but it could absolutely have started out as an individualistic, sort of society that when everything blew up and they discovered what, that everything was connected, that they changed. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I like it.
And that could even set up, if we want to do another species here, we do have time. After we look at this one a little bit more, then we can maybe come up with the sort of people who are messing everything up, and maybe they are purely individualistic, right? Maybe we set that sort of counter up. I don't know. Yeah, so there's a few other things you can look at when making species. There's always names. There's language. I'll let chat come up with some names. Ubecians is the easy way out, but I'm sure we can come up with something else. Language can be interesting. The cephaloom we were talking about early on, which came out of one of these panels, they live in liquid methane. So they use bioluminescence basically to speak, which is really interesting to think about. The Interstellar Species article gets into it a little bit more about how that works. Scrounge. And relative commonness. So like, how populous is this species? Do they leave this world? That's something we could think about too. Like, I'm already forgetting. Our accord was
high accord, low tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Which makes sense. But in terms of galactically, like, what are they? And they're low tech, right? So like that's what you just said. So does that imply that they don't really leave the world? That they don't have starships? That they are not, necessarily part of a larger galactic organization or even solar, their solar system? Any preferences or thoughts there?
That's where I went right away with that. Like, if they're low tech, it seems like they're not out there, exploring the stars yet. Because maybe they would just leave. If so, like, oh, our planet exploded, bye.
Right? Or they at one point had that ability, or they were working on that ability and stopped whenever, these disasters happened, and now that their planet is being held together by, sentient fungus.
One mushroom.
And this mushroom that's just like carrying the weight of the entire world, literally. So yeah, I think maybe at this point they're not going off world. They either can't, they never developed it, or they lost it. They had to focus on other things. I like the idea of them not necessarily being alone on the planet. I think they either are not the ones who, like, their culture is not dominant, or they are they are one of the last cultures, but they are in kind of this like apocalyptic state right now. Like maybe their culture is kind of like they're recovering from this event. They're like, it's changing, like a state of flux.
Yeah, very survival focused. And it makes sense. Like they're a very adaptable species. So they maybe were not the dominant culture, but they survived where a lot of other cultures were decimated, and they're kind of the ones trying to figure it out now.
Mm-hmm. It's a good thought.
Very cool. I really like how both of you are bringing the dimension of time into this repeatedly. It's really smart. Makes a lot of sense. Do we want to flesh out another alien? Do we have anything else? Maybe we should name these suckers so that we can refer back to them. Names are the hardest part.
Oh, they're so hard. Yes.
I need to save like 3 days of my freelance writing for naming alone. To like build that into the schedule.
Changing all the XXs into actual name goes here. Blank. Yeah, for sure. Chat, you must help us. You must. I suck at names. Well, fair enough. it's universal. We'll call them the XXs for now.
Slim bits.
Slayers.
Slim bits.
Slim bits. Slim bits.
It sounds like a Slim Jim, like snap into a Slim Jim. Oh no.
Oh, it's slime and rabbits. I see now.
Yeah. Slim bits. I see. Slayers are like slime and hairs. I mean, those both work. Hey, I don't have anything better, so good job.
Let's go with Slayers. Slayers is great. Name's literally the hardest part. It's so true. All right, so let's look at another species. And do we want to just roll randomly for this and see? Because this could be one of maybe the societies that didn't quite make it as well, is not as adaptable. Sure. This way we'll get some really weird stuff as well.
Let's have something that's not tied to a concept and just get like really weird with it. Like let the random stuff happen.
Yeah. Sounds great. All right. So let's actually roll the let's do the physiology. Let's do the physiology because that'll help us. And then we can actually roll random mechanics as well. So using weird dice for this, but okay, this whatever it is round and has skin. All right, I already hate it. Whatever it is, it's round and covered in skin. Okay.
Oh, goodness.
So that could be a lot of things. And in terms of limbs, it has 4 limbs, and they are of the type. They're fins, actually. Okay.
This is a fleshy, round creature with 4 fins. All right.
Maybe this is the lake problem.
The lake. It totally could be, yeah.
The lake, yeah.
Maybe they somehow can survive being frozen and have now thawed out and are new to the back in the world now. All right, and let's see what kind of mechanics they have and see if that makes any sense for there. Please not climbing master. Let's see. So one of their combat options is multi-armed, so they can use all those fins to hold and wield weapons and items.
Oh, nice.
So those are dexterous fins. This is what we wanted, right?
And then shark with knives. Got it.
Yeah, fin shark with knives. I'm writing that down real quick. Fin shark with knives.
Shark.
And they have dexterous movement, believe it or not. So that's a lot of fins to sort of maneuver wherever you are, I suppose. So when they move, gyroscopic, I love it. We need someone to add to the Bantrids fame here.
Yes.
So when they move their speed, they can ignore the first square of difficult terrain. So maybe icy waters, cool. They can swim around. So that's their combat options. Let's give them 2 regular non-combat options rather than one stronger one. So we just roll, and they are acrobat or aerobatic, which gives them a bonus to acrobatics checks, and if they can fly, improves their maneuverability by 1 step, which it doesn't seem like they can fly currently. But so they're again more dexterous, which kind of fits this idea. And interesting, collective. So they gain a bonus to skill checks for aiding another. So they actually might have some
nice.
collectivity in so they swarm. They're like in piranha with
Like a school of
4
fish or
knives at a
something.
time.
That's horrifying.
Yeah.
We have a suggestion from chat reminding us of the
Oh,
slow
yeah.
gravity, so it makes sense that they can like leap higher,
Oh.
even if they're not completely
yeah.
flying. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. They should definitely be able
Ooh,
to do
yeah.
that. So these are like flying fish, basically, that can kind of zip all around, bounce around, and
Ooh.
bounce off each other. Says Winter.
Another chat suggestion: bounce around and bounce off of each other, so they're like bumper boats too. Like, oh my god! Just imagining this chaotic, like this swarm of like these ball, like finned creatures that are just like bouncing, like, just coming towards you. It's terrifying, but also hilarious.
Oh my gosh!
Amazing.
Despite the fact that we've used a sort of playable species framework here, this is feeling more like maybe a non-sapient species. But if we were to make them safe, I mean, they're holding and wielding things, right, with their many arms. So what is their culture like? And we can sort of abandon our frameworks here and just think about what are they doing on this world. What I mean, I could certainly see like some of the seas draining if your world explodes, right, and that becoming a problem. Maybe they've evolved to leap for that very reason, right, to get from disconnected pool to disconnected pool or something like that.
I love that.
Right. I like that. Yeah, and they can use they can help each other propel greater distances to scout pools.
So they're just like launching each other, like grab all 4 fins and just launch you out of the water. Oh my gosh. It makes sense. Look, everything makes sense. We get to always wave the science fantasy magic wand and say, yeah, it kind of works, don't worry about it.
Yeah. I love that about science fantasy. People, every now and then I'll hear someone say they don't care for science fantasy, and I'm just like, why? You could do anything. Yeah.
Well, look, we do try to justify things sometimes, but then it's the rule of fun, right? So.
Exactly.
I mean, look, these are cool, whatever they are. I'd be down to do one more maybe, and then call it.
Sure.
That works for everyone else. Yeah. I mean, I could do this kind of all day, except that they gave us an hour for this, so they're gonna cut me off at some point. So yeah.
No more.
Let's.
Oh gosh, bummer balls. That would be a great thing for people to call them if they had to fight them. I could see that being don't tangle with the bummer balls. They'll ruin your day.
They genetically modified their descendants to survive with less tech. That's interesting too. Yeah, maybe everyone's sort of adapting to this low tech by necessity rather than not just because of the destruction it wrought in the past.
I love the pufferfish suggestion. Yeah, I was just thinking of that.
Don't mind me while I just read chat and all the cool ideas.
And listen, that's fine. This is Starfinder, of course. What in the heck? Yeah, it's going to be weird. We're making the Starfinder. This is the Starfinder Workshop panel. It's always going to get weird in here,
right?
I also love the ball pit suggestion as a trap.
Yes.
Oh
my god, I love it.
Except all of them are holding knives.
Ball pits are already a pretty suspect proposition these days, and I feel like this makes it even worse.
Also, please feel free to use these in your game if you like these. Sorry, not to cut you off, Joe, but if you like them, use them. Please do. Anyway.
And tell us about it, for sure.
Yes.
Or if you're an artist, I want to see what these look like in your imagination, because I cannot draw, so...
I know, right?
Tag us in your art.
That's my favorite part of doing this, both in these panels and sort of internally, right? When we're working on stuff, we get to decide what we want them to look like and what we want these various things to look like. And it can be the reference images we give artists sometimes. I truly applaud their ability to take this random stuff from our heads and make it look actually cool, because it's definitely not when I write half my art briefs. It doesn't even really, it's kind of like the rantings of a, I don't know. It just doesn't, it's always impressive how well our artists do. So shout out to the art department for making things make sense. So I thought for this species, why don't I pick the options mechanically, and then we'll make it make sense. We'll justify it.
Sounds good.
And I'll roll on the creature type table, which I totally ignored, and get a dragon. So this is not necessarily like a true dragon, but it could be a drake of some kind, or even just a reptilian creature in general that might have magic or unusual abilities. And I thought for the combat option, I want to pick one of the stronger ones, which for this we'll do a projectile. So this could be a bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing projectile that is sort of a thing that's always available to this creature. So some sort of biological projectile. And then for the non-combat option, let's give it a strong non-combat option too. So we'll just pick one thing. How about sense through? So it can look through one of the following materials: smoke, stone, metal, or wood. Hedgehog spike attack. So it's some kind of reptilian creature, possibly a drake. It's got a projectile and it can see through one of those materials. And
I love the spike attack suggestion, because I was literally just picturing an alligator like shooting a bunch of teeth at you.
Oh God. This is a great place to explore our fears. And my new fear now is a tooth shooting.
We're not exploring our current fears. We're discovering new
ones. Okay, and what can it sense through? I guess of those things,
we have smoke or mist in the chat.
Yeah, I like that. Maybe it lives in sort of volcanic lakes that are constantly misting, like near boiling or something. Does that make any sense? Who knows? Who cares?
I like it.
Starfinder.
It's Starfinder, exactly.
They sure sound like they'd hunt bubble leaping bubble fish by shooting them out of the sky with their teeth, I guess. Let's give them a weakness too, because that's another table in here I haven't covered at all. And this is an optional thing, and it's not like take a weakness, get extra strong abilities, because that doesn't tend to work out balance-wise. People find the most easily abated weakness and then just kind of overpower themselves. The idea here is to help you make something that won't be too good or too bad feeling in play with your characters that were built using species that we provided, which again, there's like 100. So weakness-wise, they have psychic sensitivity for some reason.
Oh, okay.
So they take penalty to saving throws against mind-affecting effects and extra damage per die from mind-affecting spells, weapons, and other effects. So they're real big thinkers, I guess. They got sensitive brains for some reason. Volcanic lake crocodilians. Mental damage to Sotowigi. You think you called that, actually. I don't know if you said that after I said. Neat. Well, we're right up on our time. So, like I said, I would love to keep doing this, but we've got to make way for the next awesome panel. Thank you so much, Jenny and Simone, for being here and coming up with all sorts of cool stuff.
Thanks, Joe, for hosting. You did great. Yeah. And thanks Chad, for being here and giving us more weird ideas.
Yeah, and keep them coming. Keep them going. Hit us up. Let us know what you've done with all this stuff. And we will see you next time. Thanks everybody. Take care.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.